This is Gamer 1745, and of course Arno is first. How you doing, my friend? Okay, just checking to see that everything looks live, streaming good. Yes, it all does actually. Oh, I hope Arno is doing well. Okay, let's make an episode. I know it'll be another introduction right here, but and I may post these as episodes someday. We will see. Welcome, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 and city builder enthusiasts who want to explore the past. And exploring the past is very interesting. We are playing Manor Lords, the new beta that came out recently. And we have a fishing pond, right? And we will get to the fishing pond soon. Right now we have 3 months of food and 5 months of fuel from firewood, and we also have logging. What we're going to do here is we're going to reduce down because we have that, and this guy is going to come over here and carry the firewood to the granary so that it can be distributed to these homes. So the communal ox or communal bike. Now, I think I'm going to attribute this to Benjamin Franklin, but I'm not sure if he is even correct. But we got a new message here. Let's see. Oh yeah, we'll be ready. There are raiders roaming around. We will, as soon as we can, we will be arming up. The things held in common are neglected in common. So, and in my mind, there are two different things that are often mistaken for each other. And the subtitle of this series is Collectivism versus Individualism, just to remind people of why I'm prattling on about all of this. And the two things are communism and communalism. Okay? Communism and communalism. And as I see it, and because people can, I know words mean what they mean, yes, but sometimes you can look in a dictionary and find very divergent meaning of words. And I can maybe see, and I don't know if it is, the word magazine, shall we say. To my understanding, its earlier meaning would be a place in which you store ammunition. Nowadays, most people would think of it as a periodical publication, something a bit more substantial than a newspaper, but not as full developed as a large book. Now, maybe that they're using the magazine as a storage collection for the articles within the magazine. I don't know. And of course, a magazine originally would have been often a building, I would presume, but in theory, whatever the place would be that you're storing up a bunch of ammunition, and now it's a magazine in a gun, detachable or permanently attached. So words can have different meanings, but communism and communalism. Communism is, as my understanding and the way is the collective ownership of the means of production, right? So one of the means of production here is this ox, a trained bovine, whether it's a bull, a cow, or a steer. It's trained to be a beast of burden, as opposed to primarily a food animal. So, to me, the difference between a communalism and communism is, or I mean, there's many differences, but one of them is a voluntary, it could be involuntary, but a voluntary, involuntary community that sets up a commune of some sort that can collectively own some things. Could be things, means of production, right? So, but they actually own it, and they benefit from it, and they can sell. What is Fritz here? Fritz, the ox. They can sell Fritz if they want to sell Fritz, and then divide the money up from it, or some such thing. But it isn't some nebulous idea that the people communally own the means of production. It's deciding that this mean of production is owned by the community. Now, that's not necessarily the case, again, back in history. It may be owned by the Manor Lord, but is used as needed. But let's presume this is a commune here for a moment. And this is a means of production that is owned collectively by the commune. It is not owned by the government. It is not owned by random people. It's owned by a defined set of people. I do believe that communalism, so long as these people have a shared idea, shall we say, that it can work and work very well. Some of the modern communes are monasteries, often in Catholic Church, but I also think there's some in the Orthodox Church in which the means of production are owned by the monastery, and functionally it's the members of the monastery. I guess nunnery could also have it, so that these people all have a shared sort of goal, shared sort of idea, and so they can keep the. Let's see if we can speed this up just a bit. I'm waiting for more people to show up because we have no people. No people. So that we have, and since we do have some unassigned families, let's get a couple more. Hey, Jemnuska. I don't know that I'm a lord, but thank you. Yes, Manor Lord. Yes. Okay. Seeing it that frame. Yes, Manor Lord. Now, I do believe, and again, for those joining, the idea of things that are held in common are neglected in common. So you can, I think, have a culture of people with a strong sense of responsibility that would people would feel compelled to take care of the oxen. You know, not just, well, I need it now, so whatever, but to feed it, groom it, whatever. In the times when no one's using it, um, I think it can quite easily be done like that. But I think in many human societies, there there isn't a clear sense of responsibility. It's beautiful hovel land. Yes, well, apparently we are sort of hovels. Um, and you need some type of authority to make sure that the oxen is uh, taken care of, or other means of production are taken care of that are held in common, or anything that's held in common. Could be the commons, often land that is um, used and held in common, but however that is, um, so now how do you get the authority? Well, sometimes people are given authority and sometimes people take authority. You only really maintain authority by general consent. Individuals may um, not consent to your authority, but if the community consents to your authority, the individual will need to comply. And I'm on, and for the, oh, we should be going faster. I thought we were going faster to keep this moving along. Okay, we are now down to 2 months of food. We have granary here with 14 bits of deer, hunting camp. Okay, so we've got all of that. The deer population is maybe coming back. Now, we don't have berries, which I'm used to on this. I was hoping to get another person. Okay, first I want to look at emmer fertility. Okay, I think if we come around, that would be good. Okay, so let's come here. That. I don't know. These aren't that steep of a gradient. And I know they will walk across. Fields. I'm coming at this whole thing from an individualist standpoint, but looking at it and seeing that I want to pause to work, but then when I'm letting time flow, I want to go a bit faster. These guys have access to water, no church, but we don't even, we have 5 families only. Fuel supply, food now. We do have some food in the granary and some fuel here in the storehouse. And yeah, to a degree, this is an attack on libertarianism. But not. And also, the whole, modern Democratic Party in America is very socialistic in viewpoint. You didn't build that. It takes a community to raise a child. No, I don't think it takes a community to raise a child. I think it takes a family to raise a child. And I think a lot of modern Democrats are divorced. And a lot of modern people, not just Democrats, are divorced from family. They are individuals working, individuals living in the same house, maybe, individuals sharing certain, duties within the house, keeping it clean, taking the trash out, preparing food or getting food or whatever it may be. But I think a lot of them are no longer in the family business. Let's go watch them over here. I guess I just follow this person. I haven't seen him build a fishing hut before. And that if it's a male and female couple, they produce a child. But they leave the raising of the child to as much, if not more, school and the media. There's our friend. He's made it here. He's taken a long time to get here, but he's going to do his bit and shovel some earth. Now they're all going to go back and wait for the oxen to drag over how many logs? 2. And then they'll come and probably when one gets there, hammer on it for a while, and then come and hammer on it for a while. The next one gets there. This, no, they need to come and hammer that. Let's reduce him. Oh, 8 stolen. Uh-oh, we're down to 1. Ooh, okay. We'll kill some deer. Hello, Arno. I hope things are well with you. So these people have a viewpoint. So the media, so the children are raised as much, like I say, by school and the media. They go to school. Sure, the parents make sure they get dressed, presumably in many cases, get them fed, and even if the parent is taking them to school, they're putting them off, dropping them off at school, and then the kid gets home, turns on the television, watch the television, and then, yeah, we are out of food here, people. We got raided by the bandits. Now we really don't have much of a way to go after bandits, so we are in trouble. We need to get the fishing going here. Normally, I rely heavily on berries, and I would have preferred a berry and fish as opposed to a hunting and fish. Is there a berry and fish option, or is it always hunting and fish? It looks like it's always hunting and fish. How interesting. Okay. Oh, I'm doing very good. So there, they a lot of modern people have divorced themselves from family. I'm not saying it's like 100% or anything like that. That's why I'm saying it's the parents and the quote unquote community, the school, the media that are raising the child. Where if you were to homeschool your children, if you were to keep your children with you throughout the day, and they're not just infancy, but toddlerhood or whatever, keep them from hurting themselves, kind of thing. But then as they get a bit older, start having responsibility, whether it's on a farm or some other economic endeavor. It could be, especially if we're looking, at cottage industries, shall we say. Ooh, this could be bad because I think the pond freezes over in winter. Come on, guys, get that finished. We need to stock up some food for winter. And the deer. Where's our hunting cabin? Okay, well, they're picking up a little bit of food. And a modern cottage industry, you know, can be something like a plumber, that yes goes to locations, and yeah, you got to make sure the kid would, before he goes to locations, is behaved well enough, and at first they may be observing as much as anything else, and then being an assistant. Um, and so yes, parents, a family, and family also can mean, of course, not greatly extended family, but you know, grandparents, aunts, uncles, that type of thing. And so that is a, not the community at large, the village at large, but a small interconnected subgrouping of that. The family can raise a child. You don't need the state. You don't need media or some other. Here's a partially built fishing hut. Okay, he has. Okay, so there is. I don't know. We'll see if he uses a rod and reel. That sort of makes it look like they're using a rod and reel, a fishing net. To, after you pull them up there, but that's a fishing trap, I do believe, to trap the animals in. But and they want to justify, the left wants to justify taking your stuff, taxing you by, well, you didn't build that. Well, No, yeah, on some cottage industry, some, hey, I'm a, you know, pioneer out wherever. Yeah, okay, maybe they built their, built everything, but for the most part, no, they don't. But they get together the capital, the money to have something built. They build it. And if you're talking about, well, the roads connect everything. That's the government. So the government gets to tax you. Well, no. At least here in California, where I am, we pay, and this is, I wonder how this is going to work out. We pay a gasoline tax um, on the gasoline that we use, and that is supposed to go entirely to um, building new roads and maintaining current roads. So it is a flat tax based upon how much um, gasoline you use. So if you drive a lot, you're going to um, pay more. And if you drive a little bit, you're going to pay just a little bit. So it's a use tax to maintain the roads. And yeah, we have the idea of collective security and the idea of, national armies and police forces. And so, yeah, a certain amount of tax, but it's not because the people, through the government, truly owns the means of production. So you didn't build that. So that belongs really to the worker. I mean, that's and um, I know it takes a village to, comes out of sort of Hillary Clinton, and I think you didn't build that comes out of Obama. It's so EVs users get to use the roads for free because they don't pay gasoline taxes. Yeah, that's my understanding um, of the situation. Um, I maybe there. I don't have any. A true. I don't have even a hybrid. Um, uh, Maybe they have to pay like a mileage tax. Like once a year going somewhere. But I've not heard of that. Maybe it's just my ignorance, but I've truly not heard of the idea that they've got to go in and pay something that's based upon usage. Now, they have to pay for electricity in some cases. I know you get to pull up to a Tesla charger if you have a Tesla or whatever, and I think get your electricity for free. I think all these EVs are um, a scam in that they are subsidized by everybody else. Everybody who's paying taxes is subsidizing. Oh, let's put two people onto this since we're not building anything more right now, so we don't need a general community. Maybe before it turns into ice, we can get some fish out of it. Oh, do we have to advance? Okay. Gathering, transporting. Yeah, you guys come and get some. We'll see how this works. In Saskatchewan, EVs have to pay $200 a year just for the lack of gasoline taxes. Well, okay, now they may get a flat, but you see, now that isn't fair. Oh, we're freezing up. Um, because that is a tax based on ownership, not a tax based on usage. So if I had 5 EVs, 5 different Tesla cars. And I just had those. Versus my neighbor who has one EV. Sure, I might drive twice as far as my neighbor, because my work is further away or whatever, or I just like cruising around. So I may drive twice as much as my neighbor, but I'm not driving 5 times as much as my neighbor. And why am I paying more tax? Because I'm just now go, well, but you have a family of 5 and each person has an EV. Well, yeah, that would be different. But if I and my neighbor are both single white males, and he has 1 and I have 5, and like I say, maybe I go further to work, or maybe I'd like just cruising around in my EVs, trying to pick up chicks, yelling out the window, "Hey, babe, want to get in and go for a ride?" or something. Yeah, maybe I'm using it more than my neighbors. But I'm probably not using it 5 times as much. And I guess in theory, if I didn't want to use them all, I could just, collect them. And I know in California, you can have non-operators taxes. And there may be a tax like that for EVs in California. I just, right offhand, don't know it. It's an ignorance thing, not a um, uh, uh, saying it's not happening. And so, but it's how far, so I'm not, it's a collection thing maybe, and oh well, you're just rich, so we get to squeeze money out of you. And I have sort of seen your comment, and I'll get there in a second. Squeeze money out of you because you're rich. Well, maybe not. Maybe my neighbor is equally rich. He just spends money going fishing, you know, and or whatever. And it's not just to the local fishing pond. It's flying off to somewhere or driving long distances to go somewhere to go fishing and back. And so where it's fair is the use tax of the gasoline. It's based upon your consumption of gasoline. Now, some vehicles consume more. Yeah, sometimes those vehicles that consume more use the road more, meaning they're bigger, heavier vehicles. So that uses up, gives wear and tear on the road more. And so, yeah, let's see what Jim Nuska says. Yeah, I used to own 5 motorcycles and got charged per bike, per license, even though I could only use one at a time. Exactly. Right? They should be charging per kilometer, but that would require more admin. Well, um, yeah, if we were living in I'll go 1920, it would require more admin. But right now, I betcha, most, if not all, of the modern EVs tell Big Ford or Big Tesla or whatever, update their mileage, and you can easily come into, and whether it's a central database of Ford or Tesla, or whether you can just have your car upload its mileage to to the website when you do your online registration. So other than so I don't think that other than setting the system up, the computer system up, which might take a lot more setting up than they currently have. I'm not going to say that, but that's a basic one-time fee. I bet you it wouldn't take any more admin to do that in the modern technological world that we live in. That You and you could even do a semi-honor system with a massive fine that if you are, significantly out from uh, okay, yeah, I knew this did freeze over, and that presumably we don't do ice fishing. I think that is the government as much hiding the desire to tax you as also just being lazy. Um, I, I I think a lot of people that are in government are ideologues, and they're leftist ideologues. So, and I don't, my understanding is all the Teslas are constantly updating themselves to big Tesla, and I think many of the other um, major manufacturers are updating their car status all the time, and that data could easily be given to the government, and the database is just like, oh hey, yeah, because yeah, and I presume it's on the car company side, it's with your VIN number, and I know the DMVs, at least here in America, of course, track your car based on VIN number. So, oh, monthly, annually, quarterly, whatever. If you want to tax the people quarterly or something instead of like one big tax bill, um, get the mileage update, and it could just literally be just the mileage update on vehicle VIN vehicle number, the VIN number, vehicle identification number, um, uh, set up then, and you know, um, and so that they can track that, and so that's bullshit. Um, Again, it's 19th century thinking, and uh, I guess we're not starving because we have a little bit of food, but we're basically out of food. There's a growing backlash against Starlink in my country due to who owns it and the perceived connections to the new government, tracking immediate cutoff of service when you guys invade. Joke. Well, okay. Um, I'll take a couple of those things. Um, uh, America is not going to invade Canada. The reason this started was to my understanding, the conversation went something like this: Trudeau to Trump. He says, "If you put all these tariffs on us, our economy is going to collapse, or our country is going to collapse." Or maybe he said country is going to collapse. And Trump was, well, if the only reason your country survives is because you're getting support from America, obviously I'm not quoting this well. It's not even quoting it. It just conversation sort of goes in this vein. Um, if it's whether it's aid or other sorts of, you're getting support. Oh, they even have frost on the cow in winter. How interesting, or oxen, because it's outside. Interesting. Um, well, it shouldn't deserve to be a country if it can only survive, with foreign aid, and maybe it should become the 51st state. Well, probably it'd be more than one state, but and so Trump never threatened to invade, as far as I know, and Trump is right that if Canada, if tomorrow the borders were to close, 100% closed between, and I know it would hurt America too, the United States. I mean, Canada is part of America, people. It's all in North America. It's just United States of America versus Canada, which is in America. We're all Americans. Mexicans are Americans too. We all have this shared colonial history. Mexico is different. Canada and the U.S. both come out of the British colonial history. So we share that. So we are Americans. I know we're different, but we're also more, a German isn't going to recognize the differences between a Canadian and an American when they show up in Germany. To them, it'll be the same group of people, let alone to the Chinese or somebody else like that. But, and so if Canada as a country could not survive the closing of the border with America, and don't whoever either now or later, don't come at me. Well, you get this and this from Canada. I know we get a lot of stuff from Canada, but but the U.S. could survive without if the border closes. So, and I'm talking travel, economics, nothing coming across the border. Well, Canada has two coasts. It can still import, export stuff. So it should be able to survive as a nation without being propped up in one way or another by the United States. If it can't, well, then it shouldn't exist as a independent country. And that's what Trump was saying. And so Trump is right that if Canada were to collapse, no longer function as a country, well, then instead of America bailing it out, it should just become part of America. We should absorb it. So it's not invade it. It's come and rescue it. And by rescuing it, yes, we absorb it. We're not, and that would be something that would be generally requested by enough Canadian people. Obviously, you'll never get 100%. It's just that. So that's that part. Okay. You can't say immediately, you're talking about Starlink. The other thing, Canada cannot cut off Starlink. Okay. Nobody, no government can cut off Starlink. Starlink, whether it's Elon Musk personally or the corporation or whatever, they respect, supposedly, whether it's true or not, respect local laws. Oh, enemy unit's been spotted. Okay, well, they're, oh shit. Oh, well, they're way up there. Well, oh boy, they may be coming this way. Well, let's, we have spears and shield. Let's form a militia. We got 10 people. Okay. They're coming this way. 18 people. This game we may, because I have not yet even got a single new family in here. So we may crash and burn here. They respect local laws regarding who's using Starlink. It's not, it's, and it goes back to, and I still think there's the old satellite phone still up, system up there. Then way back in the early 90s, people were using, it would work in one country but not in another country and just right on the border, and it was just on the companies were respecting geolocation position systems. So unless you're in a country that can shoot down, or you're a country that can shoot down satellites, like China can, the US can, probably Russia can, if you have some way to shoot down satellites, and then there's a lot of Starlink satellites up there to shoot down, unless you're in a country that can shoot down satellites, there is no way to stop Starlink. It would take, yeah, if you're some, I don't know, Andoria or San Marcos or something, you put on some massive jammers to just jam all telecommunication, through the air. Um, you could do it that way, maybe. But a large country like Canada, no, there is no way to, there is no way for Canada, if Starlink doesn't want you to operate or doesn't want to stop operating, there's no way for you to cut it off. Now you could stop, try to run around and collect people's satellite dishes and stopping delivery of new dishes, but you're not going to stop Starlink. And that's what somebody in European Commission was sort of saying, that Elon Musk owns the most satellites up there right now, and I think they're right that he owns the most satellites and whatnot. So he is operating, definitely within U.S. law, and generally speaking, respecting other people's um, national desires. Okay, are we getting? Okay, we got some fish. Yay, we got some fish. We now to a month. Oh, how is our invaders happening? Okay, they're here. Um, let's see what we know that, but up here's um, something. So if you do, we will burn down your Capitol building. You didn't burn down the Capitol building. It was the British. It wasn't the Canadians. Yeah, I know Canada was part of the British Empire back then, etc., etc. But it was the army that was fighting Napoleon that came over and burnt the Capitol. Yes, uh, yes. Uh, they don't want to cut it off. They just want CDN equivalent to it never going to happen. Yeah, no, Canada can't afford a space program. Just people grumbling. We have no internet for remote communities. Yeah, no. You know, right now, in my understanding, and please anybody correct me if I'm wrong, the um, the biggest space program um, on the planet is Elon Musk's privately owned space fleet. I know Jeff Bezos's group just in a day or two ago got a ship to true orbit for the first time. Because like when his people took William Shatner up, it wasn't to orbit; it was to space. Outside of the atmosphere, but it wasn't high enough that it was orbital, sustainable orbiting. Going around the globe multiple times. Just sort of his would just sort of get up to the get out of the stratosphere or whatever and up to see true space and maybe somewhat weightless, and then come back down, not like going around the planet several times. So Bezos now has just gotten to orbit, um, and whatnot. So um, and so Elon Musk uh, is the you know now NASA may um, employ more people just because it's government waste. But I think the biggest active space program is Elon Musk's, as in numbers of flights, payload to space, all of that good stuff. Okay, we're still on 5 families. I know, okay, we have a storehouse. There's still a family working there. We're going to shut that off. I know I haven't called the militia up yet. We're going to put you here to hopefully one of your families come over here and collect the fish. We're going to raise the militia soon, so that's going to interrupt a lot of activities. Okay, so we don't need to. I was wondering if advanced connected to the roadwork. Yes. Road network reserve. I don't know. Fish pond. Okay, yes. Seasonal growing. Didn't know if we needed to like specify an area. And governments don't like something like that. Something that's out of their control. Because, like I say, unless they want to go around and collect the satellites, you know, hunt them down, they no longer control what's being said. They can't cut the internet off now. They can't jam it. They can't, because you do know that often, and I know the internet mapping is changing over time, but there are a lot of times that when somebody in Germany is talking to somebody in Spain, it comes through America in the meantime, the way the internet works. At least it has in the past. Meaning certain major hubs, the information goes to like an East Coast hub and then goes back to, from Germany to U.S. East Coast to Spain. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. A lot of the stuff still travels through America. And now you might say, more obviously, of course, Canada, inter-Canada communications very well may be coming through America, through the United States. But they could, in theory and in practice to some degree, cut the telecommunications lines between, say, Canada and the U.S. Physically or just digitally, just turn off access to certain URLs or whatever. You don't have to literally go in and hey, Beam Slam, go in and cut cables, but you can just go in and say don't go to TikTok anymore. Don't go to these IP addresses or these domain names or whatever. You can do that, and Canada could do that, I'm sure. Um, if they have, if there's some Canadians, and I know there is, there are technically proficient Canadians, but if there are, okay, we're going to call up the militia here. Recruits missing, yes. Um, Rally the militia right here. We'll see if we can get enough people here. So Canada had that ability to do that, but with a Starlink, it doesn't, because it is direct to space. There is no. The reason I'm doing this now, my understanding with the game, is you want to give it um, sort of some time for it to get organized. Effectiveness. Almost 2-1. Well, we probably raised it too soon. Whatever. There'll be a few people still, women or whatnot, fishing and moving fish from one place to another. We need to grow our community. Not sure why with the housing. Maybe it's the lack of food we've been having. That's one of the reasons, and I've known some people, why governments don't like mercenaries, because they don't control them. Sometimes they're just embarrassed that their citizens are, fighting in somebody else's war, and because some nations are more totalitarian than others, they presume, well, you must be supporting your citizens coming and attacking our government, when it's really, no, why people should be able to do whatever they want to. But so some of it is that, but it's also, um, they don't like the idea that they don't have a monopoly on the use of force. when they come out of the forest here. Yeah, you get to stand around for a long time. Let's speed this up. Looks like they're coming. We'll see if our shield wall. Okay, they're coming more this way now, so our shield wall will hold against these brigands, this mob of people here. I think balance. Yeah, move to there. It slowed it down. Approach. And of course, on the motivation factor, well, of course, the attackers, they could be starving. But generally speaking, they're coming for profit. And these people are defending what they own and their lives and their families' lives. So they're probably slightly more motivated. That, okay, well, they've lost one. We have, oh, now we've lost two. They've lost two. We've lost some more. 6 to 13. Push forward. I don't know if that's a good idea right now, but losing. So, because we're being surrounded. Now, by now, our people would have probably fled if there was any real option to flee. Morale would be such that they wouldn't all die. People just are not that dedicated outside of massive, and even in samurais and whatnot, they would still break and run at some point. Okay, well, they've taken 2/3 of our population down. Well, our guys, and now they're going to come and burn. Well, I see the torches. I don't know, you're going to burn or they're just going to steal. Should we have just let them steal? Fire breaks out somewhere, yeah. Well, guys, there goes this community. I don't know what I did wrong. Main menu. But that's it, basically. So let's start a new game. What did I do wrong? Yeah, we're going to keep that. What did I do wrong? Gamer clearly needed to use M16s and Browning high powers. Yeah, that would have been. I mean, just one pistol would have been enough. With plenty of ammunition would have been enough to take those guys down. I alone could have taken them out. And although I think I'm moderately good, not like any sort of great, um, we're going to keep it the same. I don't know if that was random. I don't know if I should go back to an earlier save. Okay, game paused. Okay, now we're in a community here. No fishies. I think, and again, for those of you who don't know, I guess the pawns may not be randomized, but the other resources are randomized, even though this is a fixed map. Okay, we're going to see if we're going to accept this. Also uh, the crop fertilities are randomized to some degree, I believe. Yeah, no, we're not going to accept this. This would have been okay over here with enough green in emmer or wheat. So, what are you saying, Gamer? Clearly, yeah. I forgot to pay them to stay away. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't have an opportunity to pay them. Um, okay, so I'm not going to accept this. So let's just go to main menu again. New game. It's not that I need the perfect start. I just need a start that I think will be somewhat successful. Okay, pause. Oh, well, hold it. No, I need to start this over again. Am I even on the right map? No. Main menu. New game. Yes. We are on your city versus as quickly as you can. They're posted by radio. Yes, I do want the challenge. I don't want to go after the Baron, but I do want to have a military challenge in this, or battle challenge. But I also want to get beyond the 5 families that you start with before we. Oh, okay, yeah, this. Oh, I went zoomed out too far. This is a little better. I guess this may be all right. So I wanted some green for wheat at least. Now, okay. Let's save this. Yeah, okay. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I want to see here, continue, before I go any further. If I do this, does this build a bridge? Not enough. Okay, so I need 50 wood to get over here. That's what I wanted to see. No, we're not. I'm not going to do. No, I'm not going to have one of my resources cut off. One thing to go, hey, I want a shortcut to a different province and decide to add it, though there's already one there. So let's try this again. Main menu. Not that the bridge shouldn't cost resources. I completely agree with the idea of that. It just... Oh, no, this is even worse because my starting food is over there. No, 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 no. Yeah, I know for a greater challenge it would, be good, but let's see. What can we get a different section of the map? Okay, we've got a different section, fairly large. We've got berries, good. We got way out there. Berries are very useful. Let's... Okay, well, a little bit of yellow here, green and green. So we have a little bit of green over here next to the cliffs. Okay, so we do have some wheat growing ability. All right, that... Now let's take a look here. Yellow, I may have to ignore that. Let's see, flax, barley, rye. Oh, lots of rye. Okay, we're going to build our town down here, I think. See, is this reasonably flat? Yes, it is very flat, at least to my eyes. There's maybe a little bit of gradient, but all right. Okay, so we are starting again here. Let's come here. It's showing all this gradient, but well, there is a gradient here, but to me that's flat enough. Okay, so what we need to do first, again, is first we want to put in the granary here. We can move it later. Get our food stores stored before weather wrecks them. Was a little surprised. I don't know if it was because of she's using a non-existent shovel, and so is he. We'll be ready. Well, we'll try to be ready. But I expected to have more people move in by that time. Now, would that have been enough? Another 3 families, which would have given me another 6 people. Well, that would have been 16 versus 18. That might have been enough to win that combat. Hey, Eric, how you doing, my friend? Well, we are starting again because my last settlement wasn't really even a town yet, got burnt down by brigands. So this is just starting from scratch again. So previous one didn't fare so well. This one, well, we hope it will fare very well. Okay, now that we've got that, let's get a couple of people to get the grain, get that in. And now we will build a storehouse to put the rest of the goodies in. Get them protected. Okay, that's good. So that's yeah. Eric has a new channel, doing very well, doing better than my channel. But he's actually putting work into it, into the videos, not just recording gameplay and chattering all the whole time.
Hey, bring that piece over here.
So now we will. Have we filled this up yet? 14 has all of the goods here. I don't know. Let's reduce this down by 1 and this up by 2 to get people working at loading them up. Yeah. And I told last night it was, at least for me, Eric, that I'll do a video soon on promoting his channel on mine. But I'm just sort of waiting a bit for him to make a few more videos. And he's doing very well. It's not a quality thing. It's just a quantity thing. That get enough to get people over there so they can binge a few videos and whatnot. Because, quite honestly, you can only have one first introduction to anything. I mean, people can re-find it, again a year or two later and be sort of fresh, but you want to get people to be pretty fresh with it, and like it. Let's continue this road right up, like, well, slightly angled that way. So he is doing a variety of videos, and I just want to have everyone be able to find something they like. Be encouraged to subscribe and keep watching. A little faster, come on, a little faster. I can sit and wait and watch and see you guys work on things, but we're starting over and we want to get deeper into the development of things. I'm going to take this as being fully loaded, so let's get a few more people. Constructing. Next thing we need to do is make a logging camp. Oh well, his channel is Nordic what is it? Nordic Arms and History. Is that, did I get that right, Eric? You can put the link in in the description, either in Twitch and or YouTube, if you like. You can put that in there. I think you have permissions to greenlight a link. It's just, I don't mind, and mentioning it here to the sort of few core viewers, but making a video it'll likely get a few hundred views, at least when I post something now, because it normally does get a few hundred views, not my live streams necessarily, but the videos. So or yes, Nordic arms and history. Yes, and it's a just what it says on the tin: history and often history of the arms, but history um, of Nordic, um, you know, military history, military collections, that kind of stuff. And there was even some Danish people, even without Beamslam, actually watching the the, the videos. Yeah, no, I think you'll enjoy it. I mean, right now he's of course doing stuff familiar, close to home, etc., with Norwegian stuff, but it is um, it is meant to be, and I think it's really good what he's doing. It has enough, breadth of going Nordic. So you got, and he sort of tailored it. So it includes like Finland, and you can see from the flags, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. So, and sort of the history, but military history, more focus, I would say. I know I'm speaking for him, but a little bit better than maybe him typing it up. Um, so whether it's the Winter War, the Continuation War, or the German invasion of Norway, or of course can move into the more modern, Cold War era, or it could go back to something like the 18th century, because there is, from someone like I have read a lot of both history and historical fiction dealing with the Napoleonic Wars, and including the um, uh, naval stuff. There's that whole um, Nelson's attack on Copenhagen, and destroying the Danish fleet, and then the quote unquote Mosquito War, I think it was called, small craft that were Danish, but Norway was part of Denmark at the time, that were attacking British naval and commerce vessels coming in and out of the Baltics during the Napoleonic Wars, sort of, a continuation of revenge war. So there's all kinds of stuff that should be an endless amount of videos possible, um, but still focused, and not just random stuff from wherever and whenever. So it has a good enough breadth without limiting it too much, and a good enough warehouse is filled. So I think it's a good sort of uh, you know focus overall. Hmm. Right. Well, let's. That's okay. We need to wait for more. Um, we not wait. We need to put somebody working in the logging camp. So, and Eric is doing a very good job into, he actually got a forgotten weapon out there before Forgotten Weapons in the Craig Peterson video. A small, obscure military rifle for sure, but he actually owns one, so he was able to use that as an example. So, and he's definitely focusing a bit on some of the stuff that he currently, possesses and has access to. But it is, so it isn't going to hit everything evenly. It's going to, be a bit focused on stuff, but it'll just, it's just such a great idea. Oh, good, we got to move faster. And I think his goal is to have like one video a week. So not like when I was publishing videos, two videos a day. Yeah, so it's more effort into developing each video and making them nicer and polished and all that kind of stuff. Okay, guys, chop down the trees. Come on. One more person here. No, actually, no, stop that. Let's come to the granary. That way you have the two families that are foraging can forage, and then you have somebody from the granary should come and get the hand cart, like we see right there. Get the hand cart and more efficiently get the berries to the granary. Let's advance. Let's put your work area more here instead of over on that side. We're eventually going to move the hitching post to maybe a more useful position over here, sort of in the halfway. I do think, I know this is again still early access, etc., etc. I do think the maps are a little small, little tight, as in how much space do you have for your village that you're growing into a town and still have farming space and enough people, because you can't just designate this be town and this be farm and have the people, live here and work here. So yeah, you can with this game, maybe, in a practical sense, I'm not sure. But with the idea of um, focusing on like one built up town that has some of your more advanced um, trades and building capabilities that then trade some of that stuff with communities that are very agrarian or whatever. You can do some of that, but you still have to. If you have lot of wheat, you've got to have a lot of workers to work those wheat fields. So I think the size scale of the province, or whatever you want to call it, should be larger. At least that's my opinion. No. There are currently three maps available. This is the river map. There's a more mountainous map and a sort of a intermediate type map. Um, and that's it for now. The idea currently is you start in one of these areas, and then you get enough built up. Then you set up another one, and then you set up in another one, and you set up in another one. And they've now, unlike before, see, we have salt here, so we can mine salt, but we don't have fish or meat, and I think it requires fish or meat. Haven't again played very far into it. So, like over here, now they have both salt and game, but like here, over in this province, no salt. So, but they've got fish, and at some point, we'll get a building or something that will be able to like preserve fish in salt with salt for long-term storage. Earlier versions of the game, you collected wild berries. Those wild berries were perpetually good, but now my understanding is there is a deterioration. So meaning if I got a stockpile, like if I stockpiled up 5 years worth, um, in theory, I guess, and this is one of the things I were trying to see here, and I didn't get very far because I got burnt out. Um, is that there should be degradation over time, not necessarily fast, like any of this bread or these berries are going to go bad in weeks or something, but it's not. They're not going to sit around for years or whatever. But um, uh, with the salt and salting some of the stuff, that's supposed to preserve it for longer. So we will see how that goes. So the whole idea is, and we have stone, which I think is common everywhere, but some have maybe bigger stone pits, and this has iron. So if I want to make weapons in this province, I've got to have an iron source. So I've got to trade with this to get iron up to here. Or I could just simply set up a blacksmith and an armorer and whatnot, and bloomeries over here and make the weapons here and trade. And we can maybe see here. Let's Emmer. Okay, see, well, this is fair on fertility for wheat. So is this. Now this has a lot heavily forested. Now this has lots. So this would become like a huge wheat growing area, but I could trade berries or pottery or something like that. I don't know. With here for get these different communities trading back and forth is the idea with these recent two new betas. I'm playing the newest new beta, but and so I didn't even really get into playing the earlier one. So I'm learning about how this is developing. And I was rejecting some earlier starts like here because this takes 50 planks, which not 50 logs, but you have to turn these into planks, which is the next thing to get across to build a river to build a bridge across this river. So, and whenever I was starting here, it was putting one resource. When I was starting here, it was putting one resource up on this peninsula here. And one time it was, I think it was the wild animals. So pretty soon, or was the berries? I forget which one. I'd have to get 50 planks just to get over and access it, as opposed to having maybe a more, if I build a town somewhere in here, I could just build a road and a bridge straight to here instead of having to come around that way, through this other province or something if I wish to go more direct, um, or something. So we can do bridges now, which is nice. Um, I did see one from their official account. Um, one screenshot with um, a walled-in town, and before someone had been sort of doing it in a way, and the developer, I'm forgetting his name, said, wait, don't try, some sort of hacky way. Don't do that. It's going to come. Walled towns are going to come as a thing. So I don't know if he's added them or someone was still just sort of working it out one way. But we'll see. Elements we can put up. Erase shrubbery, or we can put up a shrine. Okay. We've got enough of that. Now we want to come over here. Housing. Let's go to the corner. I know I haven't even done a well yet. Okay, that's too many. Don't want to do too many because I want to go long though. Okay, 4, maybe a little bit longer. Okay, so we have 2 people doing that. Currently, those are growing, so they're adding more berries as time goes. So we want to continue to have these people get as much berries stockpiled as long as Palisade sounds like a good idea at some point. Could save some militia numbers, yes. And if you hopefully get guys with being able to effectively shoot out of it, because this now has both, we can come here, both bows and crossbows, as well as these mercenary types, two crossbowmen and this, and these do periodically change. Light archers, mercenaries with spears and with swords, and then just brigands. We want to hire the brigands. If we maybe should on the last one should have maybe spent 30. If I don't even know if I had 30 gold or silver, whatever this is, and got some brigands to defend us. That might have been a way to win that battle. I don't know. Hire our own. And the reason I didn't watch the whole thing burnt down, but because we lost, because there's right now 15 people working in this community in 5 families, 2 men and a woman in each family. I lost all the men. I know when I finally canceled it, one male had returned, I guess, or a new one had showed up or something. But we basically had women left, and even if and even if we still somehow had enough resources to start over again, no, we just it was you lost. Let's do this. So maybe it's a good idea for those who are playing this current versions to make sure you get an area that has berries. I've yet to see, you can look around here, that if you have berries, you have fish. It seems to be exclusive of each other. Yeah, that's what it's looking like. So as opposed to having fish and berries, it's either fish and wild animals, deer basically, and here again we would. So I guess in theory here, I guess if we had built something over here, they could walk all the way around through 2 other provinces. I'm not sure that they would do. I know you can move your troops out, but I don't think your people will leave, to go to work on someplace. So you would have to build, I think, a bridge across here to access those animals as part of this community. Not a huge detriment at mid game, even if you will, to build a bridge there. But early on, just to get to your wild animals, your game, that seems like a bit much. but I'm still loving the game. It's not a war game. If you're looking for that, this is not. But it does have, as we saw in that battle here, the ability to define where your people are. Was it gonna? And since we only had 10 and we were facing 18, I did a single rank depth of pikemen, if you will, or whatever you want to call it. Spear and not really pikes, but spears and shields. Um, and you could specify pushing or defensive or balance, which is what we started with. Um, but if you wanted to go your spearmen on defensive and your archers setting up somewhere, so you do have a fair amount of control over combat in this game, and it is part of the game. So that but it's not a war game. It's a game. It's a city town management development, and I don't know if truly city. I guess the furthest end, but Manor Lords, um, as in a bit more of a rural community, um, with some combat and other challenges. So. Um, I say other challenges because it could just simply be if you allow. I'm not sure if this version, but I think there will develop bandit camps that will just exist, and those are the raiders that will come periodically and steal stuff. Can you build some boats for? No, you can't. Not yet. There are no boats in this game. Um, and you can't fish the rivers. You can only fish the ponds. Two of our 5 families now have homes. Building 2 more, so that'd be 4 of the families have homes. You guys keep plundering the berries for the winter. You keep clearing out the, the backlog of berries and getting them to the granary. Like I say, I hope they'll do provinces that have bigger areas so that it's not. You're not worrying about housing and building areas too much encroaching on whether it's your forests to, get timber or farmland. Have enough space for all of that. That's one thing That's the one significant change that I would want to see is expand just just scale and size, not numbers of resources or whatever. Just bigger map. Um, or take each one of these community, get rid of half the communities here, and logically put somehow 2 of these together or something to make you redraw the map a bit, but 2 of these together to make like 3 communities. Yeah, 2 of these together would be fine. And now, of course, you can make a bigger map. So you wouldn't necessarily have more people or more, things for the computer to, analyze, because all these little bots running around doing things. So it's not like so much more, like more people, more animals, more things. No, just more space. That's all I'm looking for. So I don't, other than graphical power to fill to show what's going on. It couldn't take any more space. Okay, we're going to build our well right over here. But if you're willing to play a game that's in early access, I would highly recommend this game. And full disclosure, they did give me the game for free because I'm a YouTuber. But beyond that, no, no paid sponsorships or anything like that. And no, I'm not going to recommend it. I mean, I might be slightly more favorable to a game or game company if they give it to me for free, but I'm not going to recommend it if I don't think it's good, just because it's a free game. Yeah. Hey, Sev82, how you doing? Well, like I was saying to a few people earlier, we got burnt out of the last village by brigands, so I started over again, and we're starting fresh. So this one's going fine just so far, but the last one earlier today, the brigands came in and burnt us out after a battle that we lost. But I'm doing fine, even if my little townspeople aren't always doing fine. Yes, Sev, we can get you back in the peasants. The last ones all died. The whole militia. I had 10 militia members. They all died to the brigands. Now that people are, first we will come here, people, and we will call him Arno. We can have Arno, head of household. We get Sev over here. You. Yes. So we will do that. And I haven't forgot. No, what didn't. Yeah. Um, haven't forgot Beamslam wanting to be the. I think I'm remembering correctly. Be the blacksmith. So when I get a blacksmith, and the way the blacksmith are, that is well, uh, is a upgrade to a house. So it's you sort of and in these cases you live and work on the premises as opposed to the the forager's hut. People don't live there. But once I get a blacksmith, and that will then dedicate that whatever family living in that house to that, and then I will, well, we okay. You want to be a peasant? Fine, we can do that just fine. But I was going to wait till we actually know who the blacksmith was going to be. But we can come here and people. That's it. That's Beam Slam. Beam Slam Arno and Seven. And if anybody else I'm forgetting, I don't know if Eric wants it or Januska wants to. Let me know, either of you, if you want to be one of the families here. Because right now, I don't have control over what family does what. I don't assign a specific family to a task. I just say family, a family does the task, and then if it isn't already busy, like here, they've stripped away all of this, it's seasonal, they're not growing anymore, it doesn't look like. So we can stop that, which will put more people to here, but let's, no, we still have 19. So what we're going to do here is they're going to get those houses built fairly quickly. Just under gathering, yes. We want the woodcutter's lodge, and we'll put it here and have them get the wood on that side. It was the lack of food, which very well could have been why we didn't get anybody coming in. And that was because hunting wasn't doing it well enough to keep us fed, and we didn't have any berries. Now this time hunting is way the hell out there, which is not the best. It's going to take a while because to get grain going, because it's not that hard to designate field for growing any of the grains, but then you need to build a farmhouse, and then you need to build a windmill, which requires not just big logs for as well. All those are just a big log for a big structure. They also want the planks, and then you need to come over here to build a communal oven, and you needed stone. So I got to get all these buildings done as well as man them. Now, yeah, we could rotate through them, but so starting out, it doesn't do that well. Now, what we will do here, and which I'm sure it helped, let's come in here, and this one we're going to, because we have 50, we're going to spend 15 on a vegetable garden. Going up as carrots, but now that's interesting. Here is an anomaly, an anachronism, something that didn't happen back then. They're showing this vegetable garden as a carrot. One thing I'm pretty damn sure of. The other thing I think. Okay. I don't think Franconia, which is where this is, which I take is, I'd have to look it up, but somewhere in Germany, modern day Germany. I don't think Franconia had carrots back then. They definitely didn't have potatoes, because those potatoes are an American thing. They didn't have potatoes. Roman Empire, Greece, none of those people had potatoes until somebody, Riley or somebody brings them, because I think they're North American, brings them back to Europe. So they didn't have potatoes. But I'm pretty sure they didn't have carrots. And I'm damn sure they didn't have orange carrots. Because before the orange carrots are entirely a man-made thing. And prior to that, they were either white or purple, if I remember correctly. Two different strains of carrots that were white and purple. And then the Dutch in the I believe it's the 17th century, into the gunpowder age, are the ones that crossbreed the two types of carrots and come up with the orange carrots. And that's sort of my understanding where they had a lot of cabbage. Yeah, okay. Oh, I'm not saying they didn't have vegetable gardens. I don't know how much root vegetable type things, because I'm saying they did not have potatoes. I don't think they had carrots, but that's just a think. But the idea of orange carrots, no, that's I'm pretty sure it's 17th century, 1600s, and it's sort of where the House of Orange, I believe, gets its name. Um, Europe at this time in Middle Ages, to my knowledge, did not have the color term of orange, and they didn't know of oranges, which were a more southern. Yeah, I'm not saying they weren't. I don't think they were there. I think they were, more of a Middle Age thing, or no, not middle, more of a Renaissance thing. And I think they're coming back, and that's where you get like the tangerine or whatever, which is another type of not orange, but another type of citrus thing. I think they were being brought back by the English from when the English got Tangiers, or maybe it was Spain earlier, going into North Africa, and so I don't think the Middle Ages. Now I'm not talking classical Rome or whatever. I'm talking the Middle Ages had oranges as some of their foods. I don't think so. I don't think they had the word orange, and definitely didn't have the color meaning of orange. They would call it, a red or some um, other kind of things. The Gamer 17, they know Dutch plus know all. Yes, yeah, no, I know a bit about the Dutch. Well, right now I can't afford chickens because, well, I could afford them, but I don't have any planks. I need to have a uh, sawmill or whatever you want to call it. Um, uh, that's tiles. Where is it? Here. That will saw pit. Okay, saw pit. That will turn some of these in there, which we're getting there, but we still haven't even got a wood cutters to cut, firewood, which we have higher priorities. Arno, we will get there. We will get there. Housing and yes, we can do chickens. Okay, so we can do. Oh, well, we don't want to change this. Let's click on one that doesn't have. Okay, so down here are the backyard additions to a house. So vegetable garden, chickens, and I do believe they had vegetable gardens like cabbage or other vegetables. They wouldn't have had corn or what we call corn today, maize. Because again, that's another an American thing. But chicken coops, animal pens, particularly, I guess, though before that, I think it always been goats, but it looks like there's maybe pigs as well. Okay, goats or pigs. So we can do either goats or pigs in the backyard. So that's pigs are new to me. Before it was just goats. And we can do orchards. So those are the backyard things. These over here are specialty and they're for the home. So you don't need and this is I'm particularly for my individualism versus collectivism, looking that these are designed to be shorter so as not to show a difference between those that have um, more than other people. It's not equal. And I do believe I'm not absolutely sure if you can later on do. Yes, I'm pretty sure we can add like a blacksmith shop or a brewery in there. So we can, I think, destroy um, the garden if we wanted to, or um, whatever. Yeah, I think we can destroy it. Um, but I think we can add one of these other to the house. You can't have more than one backyard endeavor at a time, no matter how big it is. And so, yes, we will be definitely, for variety's sake within the game, wanting chickens for eggs, wanting like pigs for meat. Um, so I think that now goats had been doing, I think, milk for cheeses. I think that's what it was. Or was it hides? Maybe it was hides. But whatever it was, we'll get there. Yeah, no, it, again, like I'm pretty sure, you know, I'm pretty damn sure that it's a couple hundred years later from what this setting is to when we get the orange carrots. But I don't know if Franconia had either the white carrot, because I remember watching a BBC thing, I think it was, well, some British television thing talking about it, and it was sort of a white carrot or a purple carrot predated the orange carrots. um, and then humans in the late Renaissance, the 1600s, I believe, at some point, or maybe it was even the late 1500s, but this is more like 1200s or something, running out of fuel. Well, yeah, I know we're getting these guys built here. I've got 4 people on the building duties. We are building the houses. We got 2 houses left to build. And then we will have somebody up here who, okay, well, actually, now, I don't think we need the granary guy anymore, because I know we just shut it down. We've actually got all of the food out of the forager's hut. And people will come naturally and just take what they need out of the granary right now. So we don't need a dedicated. So we have all the workers right now working on this. Our bottleneck is we only have one Fritz the oxen. So we can only move one log at a time. Yeah, okay. I don't think they have cows in the game yet. Um, we have pastures, and I think it's just for sheep, for wool. So this what the again, there's, at least it had been one guy doing most all this, including a lot of the graphics. Though he was, I know, at times contracting out to individuals to um, to do certain parts, but basically it was one guy making the game. I know it's blown up bigger, and I know they could afford to put more people into the development. I don't know how much that is happening. So, yeah, modern greenism and their anti-Western development really likes to attack cows. But cows are great. I don't think their methane gas is affecting any sort of greenhouse effect. I'm not buying it. Sorry, not buying it. Not from the cows. The cow can provide milk. When the cow gets a bit older, it's also obviously has babies, but when it gets a bit older, it can be slaughtered for meat and for its hide. And you can use other bits and pieces too. The hooves for glue or whatever. Um, the horns, if you grow horns, the horns can be used to make things out like a powder horn. I mean, horns were used to make drinking cups. So there's a lot that with that cow um, you could do stuff. And the males, because they would be about even numbers of males to females, you cut the balls off of enough of the males in their adolescence, um, and they're good for meat and hides, and of course, again, horns or whatever, you know. But there, you get them to a decent size, and then you butcher them, and yeah, and so you get hides from them, um, and so they're great. And like I say, the cows, you get lots of milk. Milk can be stored long term as cheese, and so it's a great resource. Yeah, the amount of pasture land and or feed grain to cows is a lot of space, and it's more than what you would take to do wheat or something in the same environment, but you're also getting concentrated proteins. So from either the cheeses or the meats or milk, but yeah. So you're getting lots of protein. So I really think it benefits humanity a lot. Sheep, yeah, you get all that with sheep as well, because you can do sheep milk if you want to. I don't specifically know of any cultures that really did that. I know I've heard of goat's milk, but I haven't heard of sheep's milk, but probably somebody was doing it. Well, I mean on scale. And definitely you do sheep's hides. When you slaughter them, you can tan the hides. Um, they're a thinner hide than cow's hides, so a little more refined, a little because I've actually no, sorry, it was a pig's hide that I used. Leather. I mean, it's just a thin leather. Pig's hide. So pigs, you can get hides off of them too, but you can tan the sheep's hides. I don't know how thick or thin it is compared to cattle's hide, but I was mistaking pig's hides for um, sheep's hide. And of course, sheep also give you wool, but they probably don't give you much milk for cheeses or drinking sheep's milk. I don't know. Don't Cows have been bred to overproduce. At least certain breeds of them overproduce milk, so that they produce large volumes. And yeah, and of course, out of sheep you get wool as well. Um, so yeah, so there's a lot of there. Sheepskin is thinner than cattle. Okay, hello. Um, Dito Devlich. Hope I'm getting that right. Dito Devlich. Cheese from sheep is popular in some places. Okay, Beam Slam. Yeah, I just don't. Oxen are trained. Um, Often, yes, steers, as in castrated bulls. But I do believe it can be a cow, female, and in theory can be a bull too. I don't know if specifically yet, but yeah, an oxen is an animal that's trained and used for um, service versus just for its meat or you know milk or skins. But yeah, it's the same animal. It's just gone through a training process. And those that are new around here, my family has, and I partially, summer vacations and whatnot, grew up on a ranch. So I have a rancher's background, and ranchers leave cattle to be. Ranching is different than farming. Ranch cattle are not necessarily animals that you can readily approach. Um, they're a different sort of thing than farming, and so I would not suggest walking up to a ranch bovine, whether it's male or female or castrated, where oxen would be entirely different. They're used to close contact with humanity. Maybe mixing sheep and goats here. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because I know of goat cheese. I don't. I'm not saying. I'm sure it's possible to do sheep cheese. I just don't know of it, right off the top of my head. And this, supposedly, I don't even literally know how much I believe this, but there are people that believe food just comes from the market. And you get it in the market. Well, where does it come? Well, the market. And they just keep going back. It's the market. That it's just as if it's like manufactured and not that it's part of nature. Modern people are so divorced from nature, and you know, let's take the structures that we live in today come from nature. Steel and glass come from nature. Plastic comes from nature. It's just more refined. And modern people are just so divorced from that. But here we have a clearer example. Okay, stone, you got to go around, collect a stone, and you got to, okay, this isn't, fancy stone masonry, but you don't get even these sort of semi-squared off stone pieces in nature really at all. Not enough to build something like this. So this bit of stone has been quarried or collected and cut down. You can see a little stone here. Okay, that's maybe like river stone here that they've just gotten and paved to make an area that won't get too muddy when the water buckets or whatever are the washing's being done here and whatnot. But so they've had to quarry this stone. Yes, the wood is cut, the timber's cut, and then this, even though we don't have the saw pit, these have been, squared off. Saws were quite rare back then, and this does have a saw pit, and yeah, they did have saws, but the steel in saws needs to be pretty damn good because it's very thin. Where a lot of this stuff would be cut with axes and adze. An adze is sort of like a garden hoe, but for cutting on wood. And they would square this up with axes and adze. And yeah, like with their saw pits, saws did exist, but they weren't like a lot of hand saws like we think of them as today. A lot of that stuff just wasn't around a lot. I'm not saying it wasn't there; it just wasn't used like we think of it. A lot of the ships were being built. I'm not just talking boats; I'm talking big ships. Where you needed to cut, they were cutting with adze, trimming with adze, and cutting with different types of saws, including, or not saws, sorry, axes, and some axes that instead of having the blade, sort of in the middle of it, it's to one side. So one side is flat, and the other side, edges down to it, if you understand what I'm saying. So as to, trim these to make these things out. This, I think is set up to the plastering here, I think is set up to being over planking, but they also did wattle. This is wattle. Branches interwoven. So I know in England, a lot of the buildings would be timber framed. Wattle would be put in here, denser than this, packed in denser than this. And then they created this plaster, which would be a mixture of lime, some mud, and cow shit, and maybe other shit. And so it's definitely some lime in there, I believe, intermixed with it, and the cow shit, and then spread on with your hands onto this and let dry. And that was somewhat resistant to water, but it wasn't like fire hardened like we will see here. That's tannery tiles, clay furnaces, where you're getting it really hot. Like bricks are, in a kiln, tiles are in a kiln and getting really hot clay. This is just, mud, if you will, put on there. And then here is thatch. So you're getting basically sort of wheat stalks, basically, that kind of thing. and is thatched. So people are living um, very much in nature here. Yeah, they're changing it, and then they're living with their vegetable gardens, their animals, whether it's the chickens for the eggs, the sheep and beef, or the pigs. So they're, this is still very, very nature living here. Um, and in the modern world, we're still all of that, people. Yeah, you got to go dig in the ground for iron. You got to either cut down trees and make charcoal, or you dig coal out of the ground and you put that together with the iron once you've got it refined to create steel. And glass, you got to find, silicon, sort of beach sand types of stuff, and heat that up to create the glass to get your glass and steel skyscrapers, the big steel buildings. Plastic is taking oil out of the ground and doing chemical processes to it. Um, yeah, in a way, we're no longer living in amongst our shit or our animal shit for walls and other things. But yeah, it's and so we're a bit more refined, but we're not out of the you know, natural world. And now, if you want to take, you know, we define it reasonably so as, I don't know, not unnatural, but not supernatural. I don't artificial. I don't know if that's the right term, but that which man does to the world. But we can see beavers. Beavers make wattle dams, if you will. I mean, they do their own sort of damming up, sticking sticks into the ground and whatnot, and building their beaver dam and beaver you know huts or whatever out in the water. So yeah, I mean, is beaver are changing their environment. They're damming, generally a smaller stream than these rivers here. But I don't know if we have a small stream here, but they're damming that up to create a pond to live in, and then they're building their living quarters out in the middle of it to keep away from predators. So is the beaver an unnatural animal? We might say a spider generates its own silk and just sort of makes a web, and so that might or might not. But we're talking about engineering at a certain level with a beaver, and engineering it's taking not using tools because they just use their own teeth. It's not an artificial um, uh, implement to use on something, but they're using that to cut down trees, to trim branches off trees, to get logs to create some of this stuff, but then using the branches to stick into the mud, and so they're altering their environment. Is that unnatural, or are humans just part of the environment? Which I'd say they were. Goats, particularly, but also sheep and other animals, they will destroy their environment. I particularly hate goats. Um, I think they've destroyed so much environment because they are, and especially I know mountain goats are a bit different, but a lot of the other goats, that the particularly Arabs use, that will live in very marginal environments, but they just totally destroy all vegetation. And they've just destroyed so much vegetation in North Africa and the Middle East, that just letting those goat farmers or herders or whatever you want to call them, goat herders, around just destroy everything just to keep their goats going and alter their environment. So if there's not enough predators around to eat the goats, or humans are protecting the goats, they will destroy environments. So not just humanity destroys it. Let's see let's catch up. Uh, what purpose did cow shit serve in the wall? Hello, Ray Gun Rob. Well, cow shit. Okay. Oh, and especially when you consider that homes use to have barn other with animals. Well, yeah. Okay, those are two different things. Um, cow shit is sort of like glue. Okay. Understand that um, Earth. I don't mean the planet. I mean the sort soil. Maybe that's the term I should use. Soil is made up of decomposed animals and plants. Okay. Otherwise, you would just have sand. Sand is eroded rock. You know, wind, water erodes rock. Freezing, especially will get in the cracks and erode rock. Um, and then all of the rest of that brown element of soil is organic matter. Um, and the cow shit is particularly dense and would make a good glue. So if you just took, now you could do it with clay. Okay, clay would work. The lime, I believe, is in there partially to make it somewhat water resistant. Um, and if you take clay, which is primarily organic matter and very rich organic matter, um, there'll be very little sand in it. And you take it and sunbake it, and then you pour a bucket of water on it. The water will just go away. I mean, we could talk about enough of a tropical environment that it wouldn't happen in. But somewhere where it can be dry, it'll go away. But if you take that same clay and make it into a bucket itself, a clay bucket, and pour water into it, it'll eventually just dissolve. Now, if you fire bake it, get it hot enough, you will turn it into a crystal type formation that won't, um, dissolve because of water. So what they're doing is instead of using up an expensive resource, um, clay deposits, that you want to dig and make something like a pot or a tile or tile roof that needs to shed lots of water. And if you look at this structure here, look at the overhang. You've got to get a strong angle of wind to put water consistently on this wall. And this has a stone foundation. And now sometimes it's sort of hidden because these buildings are sort of a bit more flat, even though it's flatted out there. So the standing water, the flowing water as it flows down this hill will flow around the stones and keep away from here, because this is not fire hardened. This is susceptible to standing water damage, but a bit of flowing water. But again, most of the water will flow off of this and down. And we can look here, and this is the way it's designed, is if the water's coming straight down, it doesn't touch these walls. Again, it takes an angle, and then it's going to slowly erode. And over the years, it would need to be touched up again um, to fight the erosion. So they don't have the ability, obviously, in a wall that's um, uh, uh, wood timbered to fire harden it, uh, and they don't have the money. And do they have in this game? I think it's just stone, but brick kilns are brick isn't cheap. They didn't make, you know, I know, and I know this is set in Franconia, which is somewhere in Germany. Um, I know British history better. Through the early part of Norman history, so this is after 1066, the Normans come in. There are virtually no, I mean, there's no brick buildings, literally no bricks. The Anglo-Saxons did not. They did have pottery, but their pottery was pretty poor quality. I believe, and I could have this wrong. This is going from memory. I'm pretty sure the Anglo-Saxon period is hard to date objects because their pottery was not fire hardened very well. So it over a few hundred years, shards in ground. They don't stay crisp. They erode. So it's you can find it, but it's hard to find. Um, and so there's no bricks anywhere in England there at this time. Um, their pottery is very poor, and so there is virtually no stone buildings. There's like um, you know the stone walls that exist are Roman, like Roman walls around London or the Tower of London that are still still there to this day. Um, and this is um, during the Anglo-Saxon period, and basically um, there's a few churches, not even what we would think as cathedrals, but there's a few churches that are stone. Royal palaces in the Anglo-Saxon period were just bigger buildings. Um, and I don't even know if they had um, the stone foundations, because some of the archaeological stuff, they find royal palaces simply by finding the post holes that are into the ground in Anglo-Saxon Britain. So these are wood, timbers, thatched roof type things, maybe wooden roofs for like a royal palace. Uh, these are probably, again, wattle and daub, meaning, again, this is wattle that they're putting in, and again, much tighter weave than this fencing, um, and put up there. And so when Normans come in, there's, like, again, virtually no stone structures, and they themselves early on are building everything. All their castles are built out of wood and plaster on the outside. To often they'd even score it to make it look sort of like stone. And that is not because they didn't know what or how to work in stone. They wanted it up now, not 5 years from now, because making a castle would take like 5 years. You don't put them up in a few months. And they wanted to get them up now because they were an occupying army over, they were the Normans occupying the Anglo-Saxons, and they coming along are rarely constructing things, and mostly just churches. And you're starting to get the Tower of London being built in the Norman period and whatnot. So those are stone. Now they end up at the sort of end of the castle period in Wales with some of the most advanced stonework in the world at the time. But that's well into the high Middle Ages, where before we're looking Middle Ages turning into the Dark Ages turning into the Middle Ages. So brick obviously was known in the Roman period. The right places in the world still made brick, but brick wasn't common. So you needed a sealant, because again, in, like I say, I know English stuff. The idea that this peasant has enough planking to plank his walls, that's pretty advanced, pretty high level. Also, I've done experimental archaeology, if you sort of know what that is, in and around Scotland, this we get to the second point with the animals, they built out of, up in Scotland, they were building out of stone, but not out of cut stone like this, but out of rubble built stone, and often dry stone, meaning no no mortar. Um, and now their walls were 2 to 3 feet thick, and they were just finding the stone on the ground, and this is the same time period, and just stacking these stones up, um, and so that, and the stone was just common. And see, part of this, no stone down in England, just because you walk around England you don't find stones. You go into the Highlands and some of the parts out in the islands of Scotland, you don't find enough trees to cut down to create hardly anything. So it's looking for the materials that are available to use. So they would do these dry stone buildings that had a thatched roof. And thatch, again, is the stalks and whatnot from the wheat left over. Wheat and other, rye and other sorts of farm grown grains and whatnot. And they would have come in here, and sort of like you could see here, you'd have a door here, and you'd immediately walk into an animal area, mostly for cows, and then you would have, because it's sort of 3 rooms. First, the entry area, which would be the kennel isn't the right word, stables for cows, and then you would have one room for the family to live in. They would all live in one room, and then if they were wealthy enough, they would have a third room, and that was the guest room that they would not live in, because they needed to keep the place warm, and to warm 2 rooms was too expensive. So let's see, does this place, okay, yeah, the way in the Highlands, this would be a little too cold having that open. They'd have a single hole in the top of the thatch roof, and if you stood up inside your house, you would be in smoke. And all of their furniture are really low set to the ground. So you'd come in and you would sit down, and they'd have an open fire in the middle of the place. And that would heat the room. And this is well into the 18th century. And the smoke would come up in here and gets trapped up in here. But it was good that it did so, because it kept out a lot of, whether it's bugs or whether it's things like rats and other things, that you would sort of smoke them out, if you will. And so the smoke would come out, and there would be a bit of a hole up here that it would come out, but still enough it would be filled up in the top part. And so you just heat this one room. You get some heat from the animals. Now, the animals would only be brought in at the beginning of winter, and they would store up food for the animals. And because, like I said, it was dry stone, meaning it was, not mortared in, they would often have to literally rip holes in their walls and drag the animals out, cows or bulls or whatever, drag them out side, and then repair the wall at the end of winter, because they were so weak they couldn't walk, because they hadn't walked in 3 to 4 months. They'd just been stationary and eventually just sitting or laying down, or whatever you want to call it, in their little stalls. And then they would start moving around and get strong enough to eventually start walking again. And also, they were a little weak from being bled, because they would bleed them for their blood to mix into things as part of the food. They would put the blood in, like mix it in with oats or whatever, and cook it up. I mean, they didn't normally drink it raw. but they'd bleed the cattle too. So you would live with the cows in one room. You were in another room, and there was maybe a guest room for guests if you had that, and that's how they lived. Um, so yeah. Hello, Admiral Teague. Hadn't looked up at the chat for a moment. Like we can trust this guy. He's an industrious princess. Okay, what did we? Um, okay, let's go back up. Let's see. Stone foundation didn't really exist in Denmark at the time. Early Middle Ages. Yeah. And yeah, like I say, a lot of this is dependent upon um, local environments. And I can definitely see that Denmark might not have lots of uh, stone laying around on the ground. So yes, good to see you. Let's see. Okay, yes. Secret of making concrete cement was lost from the end of Rome until something. Yes, exactly. Portland cement. You're coming in the um, mid 1800s. That's coming back, and we are only just now relearning how the Romans did their cement. And one of the oldest still functioning buildings is the Parthenon in Rome, which is primarily a cement based building, including the roof. And so, yeah, it's, yeah, cement is a marvelous thing. And yeah, they just did not have that. So, these people, metal is hard, is a rare, hard thing to have. Um, and most of the peasants at this stage would have virtually no metal. They wouldn't use metal to, again, from my understanding, wouldn't use metal in the construction of this. These sort of things you see here and here, those wouldn't be like metal nails. They would mostly be something like a wooden dowel for, you know, to connect, function as a nail, if you will. You would drill a hole through a few pieces of wood, and then you would put, wooden, like we can see sticking out here, right there. You would drive the wood in it to function as a nail, but a lot of this would just be tongue and groove types of connections and whatnot. Only something like a chain or whatever to hang a pot over a fire, and most of the pots would be ceramic, clay, and not metal. And frying something wouldn't be on a frying pan, that's metal, or a griddle that's metal. It would be on a rock, or again on some sort of pottery type device. They boiled a lot of their food and meats back then. Without cement, most stuff collapses under its own weight from roughly 3 to 5 stories high. Yeah. Oh, yes. Things like let me get this going again. The Tower of London, um, which definitely is a Norman feat, built in and around the ruins of Londinium, Roman London. Um, but that is a very rare building, made out of stone. Um, and those are like super expensive. And cathedrals that were being built in the Middle Ages, not so much the Dark Ages, but the Middle Ages, um, would take generations to build. And obviously, the ambition, which ones or how long, I mean, it varies. Um, but these are generations of people working to build stuff, and it's a huge endeavor. Um, so it's just, and everything these people are wearing, coming out of nature. So either plant fibers, um, cotton was mostly unknown in Europe at the time. There was, cotton in Egypt and India and whatnot. Um, but in Europe, just because trade really didn't go very far, they would wear linen, which is, uh, plant-based fiber, or they would wool, which is obviously, animal-based, and then leather. But they did not look like biker gangs, people. I just cringe so much, and it makes me stop watching. There was some Robin Hood. No, no, it wasn't Robin Hood. Yeah, well, maybe there was one, but no, like a Three Musketeers series, and all of the Musketeers were wearing leathers. Everything like they were wearing was leather. They didn't wear leather, people. No leather. No wearing of. Now, they had leather belts, leather shoes. Yeah, but they didn't wear leather vests, leather jackets, leather pants. No, it just in the Renaissance, in the 18th century, in the Middle Ages. No, there were no biker leather dudes. They did not wear leather. Leather was not. I mean, yeah. Again, I mean, everybody here may have something that's leather on them, like I say, a belt, shoes, uh, stuff like that. Um, uh, some sort of, I forget what you would call it. You put on your hand so that when you put a needle through something, you don't put it, through, stitching something, you don't put it into, So they have leather things, purses, which would be something like not like a woman's modern day purse, but a thing attached to a belt. That would be leather, but nobody was walking around in leathers. That's another sort of Hollywood thing that just makes me cringe and go away, quit watching a historical series. Cathedrals use flying buttresses and towers. Yeah, now that's getting into the flying buttresses and what are late Middle Ages, where they're getting that kind of stuff. Cotton was bold, plain. Yeah, let's see how it works out for them. Yeah, bold plan. Um, I think I'm missing something here. Cotton was a bold plan. Some sort of reference. I'm not getting it. I don't know. Um, yeah, leather pad for the finger used as a thimble. Yes, yeah. So I'm not suggesting that they didn't have leather, but no one, and even the cowboy stuff, cowboys virtually never. I mean, I'm sure you could probably prove me wrong on the never part, but the idea that all these cowboy movies, including great movie John Wayne movies and whatnot, wearing leather vests, that was not a thing. I mean, again, you could probably prove me wrong somewhere and find something, but from a historical fact. But that's not really the case. Like Vikings wearing fur coats, none have been found yet, I believe. Yeah, fur coats, fur lining, um, would have been around, but I'm not saying for Vikings, would have been around in the Middle Ages, but we're talking true royal and nobility kinds of things. And um, a lot of it would have been, if you had it, probably the fur would have been on the inside to keep you warm more than on the outside. And definitely, like the other Hollywood thing is, cow horns stuck on Viking helmets, which did not happen. You know, it's a reference to dodgeball. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Okay, you're right. Yes, you're right. It was just slipping past me, Admiral Teague. Yes, now I get caught in the bold plant. Yes. 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 Yes, I get it now. It was slipping past me. I knew I should remember it. I love Dodgeball. It's a funny movie. Oh yeah, and yes, and fur hats, because now fur hats, which would be different. I mean, obviously, fur would be a somewhat cured. It's not uncured, so it is a leather, um, but that is for warmth. and more into the north. Leather chaps, depending on region, as only really needed. Yes. Yeah. Now, yeah, leather chaps. That would definitely be. And in the Southwest here in America, um, there's a lot of bushes and that kind of stuff that would stick you if you did not wear chaps. For sure. Okay, we have all of our buildings built. We are out of firewood, so if winter comes, we won't have the fire. So we need to, let's get some of that rocking. We are down to 12, so we will do that. And I think that is good for now. I fully believe our education systems, and I know in America, and I believe in Europe as well, have let people down, let society down. There are no, again, I think there are people that believe food comes from the grocery store. They don't, they want to cut back on farming. Well, where do you get your food from? Well, the grocery store. Well, where does the food? The grocery store. They think farming is some sort of, yes, winter's approaching. That's why we're going to get firewood. And I think this modern vegetarian, modern vegan society is just because they are so detached from nature and the idea of needing to kill to get your food, and killing is somehow bad when these people abstractly um, uh, praise nature. Well, it's natural. Well, nature, animals are killing each other all the time, and even predators are being killed by bigger predators. It's not just prey and predators. And so, because people are divorced from where everything comes from, it's so specialized. The idea that, I mean, how many people out there, I don't know, have watched an animal be slaughtered, like a cow or, steer or whatever. Um, watch them, drain the blood out and render that cow into the even just the basic forms of. Now I have, because again, some ranching background. I have not done it. I have not gone around and butchered my own food, but I've watched people do that. So I'm not divorced from the idea that there was once a chicken or a cow, and I mean, it's not just, oh, meat's in a package, and I don't think about where it comes from. No, I'm connected to it. It's making me hungry. Okay, well, hopefully I have something good to eat around. About 40% of modern food goes to waste that were unheard of in the Middle Ages, because that would mean hunger. Well, that's because we are so efficient at producing it now compared to then. World hunger only happens because of politics. Okay, world hunger, people going hungry is only because of politics. Now, we can look at, and those of us that are old enough to remember some of the very good music, and coming out of the Live Aid concerts back in the 90s or whatever, to feed Somalia, which is still a fucking failed country. No matter what we've done, we can't put it together. Um, and the only reason that famine was happening was because, well, hey, not global warming, just, hey, there was. Hold on, guys. I gotta take this. Um, Hello, Wes. Yes. Good morning. Hold on, just a second. Just a second here. Um, Hold on, guys. I'm glad you told me. I thought you went that fast. Okay, I'm almost back. Important but needed phone call. Sorry for the interruption. So let's get back to this and pause this and check what the. Yeah. Okay, true. The use doesn't give a fuck. And I throw away based on that. Yeah. I'm not as concerned about food waste as some people. Um, and so like Somalia, famine. How tragic. Well, why are the people dying? Oh well, nature, famine. Lack of rainfall. No, that's not why the people are dying. It's because they didn't build roads. They were flying in food in airplanes and trying to bring it in through a port that was insufficient. It we the only problem with food is delivery. We can produce more food than humanity needs easily. And so um in the modern day sense, food is not the bottleneck. It's transportation. It's getting the food from where it's grown and then processed, um, out. So in the Western world, short of some immediate disaster, and you need disaster relief, well, fine, and we can do that, for brief periods of time. We can, put food on ships, off season, at least from the northern hemisphere, fruits and whatnot from South America and bring it up to America at an economically based rate that people are willing to pay for fresh oranges or whatever it is year round. So yeah, and so people starving in wherever, it's because of mismanagement of these governments. And by politics, I don't mean, left, right, well, maybe in a sense, but, or Democrat, Republican, or those kinds of politics. I mean the inability of a country to build and maintain roads and railroads and ports, and then, you know, uh, North Korea being such a disastrous country and not, having even basic levels of economics to buy even, simple foods, grains or whatever. So yeah, we can get things like North Korea not having enough food. Again, that's politics, and it's I'm not trying to blame politicians. I'm just saying it's just the way society, because society it's societal at that level of politics, not just the effectiveness of a particular politician or two. Let's come over here and let's give us another vegetable garden so that we have two vegetable gardens. Do you walk around through the village? We have it with this modern one here. Let's do that. Come here. All right. So again, it won't. I mean, he does have a face. We can barely briefly catch his face yet, but he's always designed to sort of look away, look at our direction. The shoes are on point. Yeah. Now, wool was favored heavily in this environment because, well, first off, it was rare to wash items. You would often maybe do your laundry, I don't know. Well, there's some records of uh, people like, no minor nobility doing their laundry once a year, big piles of, and I sort of send it out. So laundry wasn't quite done as much as we would do it today. People stunk back then, I'm sure. But they liked wool because, as we're sort of seeing with the rain here, the lanolin would, it's sort of a mix of shed water as well as hold water, but would uh, retain heat even when it was wet. Where cotton, and I don't know about linen, I don't know, which is a plant fiber as well, but you get cold when you get wet. But where wool will, because I have been in the Highlands wearing uh, uh, a great plaid, if you will, or big blanket made out of thick woven wool, thick woven, hard wool, not like you think modern blanket fluffy wool, but in which being able to pull that over my head would shed lots of rainwater in the Highlands. So, but even when it does get wet, it retains heat. So it's a very good way to do so. So wool is favored by these people so that whether it's it keeps you warm in these environments. Needs a proper horse. Yeah. Well, I don't think they've developed horses yet, like cavalry of any sort in this game. And to me, the oxen still walks a bit oddly. It was really bad in the early versions of him, but it's gotten a lot better. So they're not doing all of that. But you would also, as you're walking around, you just walk around. I'm trying to get in front of you. Uh, yeah, you can see he has a sword, a dagger, and a purse there. This is about all of our community. It's a petty kingdom, yeah. Well, we're a manor lord. We haven't even got our manor set up yet. Okay, let's escape out of this. Now, what we could do is come over here. Now that we've gotten some firewood, let's add a person or family working the storehouse, which should come up here and collect some of this firewood and bring it to the storehouse so that the people can just get it from the storehouse instead of having to walk all the way over there to get their firewood. Now, in drier climates, um, I know uh, they would burn the animal dung, often cows. I don't know if they would up in here or other places because cow dung doesn't necessarily naturally get dry. It just because there's enough rain and whatnot that it would just absorb into the ground beforehand. But there is a lot of trees in this environment, so um, I still think I understand that this is a game. I understand blah 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 whatever, but I think the firewood and the idea that this are two different things are a little iffy. Um, I would have this produce this and the firewood from being, other bits and pieces of the tree that isn't quite suitable for for building materials that you would burn. Now, I know a lot of you are Europeans, so I don't know how much you've heard. Have any of you heard the term windfall? It's a 50-50 chance it may grow out to be a city at last. Yes, we may get this big. Have any of you people heard of the term windfall? It is sort of an American term, so I don't know if you've heard it or know. Or I know everybody watches like American TV or whatnot. We still haven't gotten out of the original families. We've got two sets of often seen in westerns. Yeah, windfall. Well, um, in North America, and I'm saying it that way, during British rule, Britain, it was illegal to cut down trees in certain areas because the British needed those trees to build their ships, and primarily naval ships, but ships, big straight trees. So it's illegal to just go and cut down trees. Now, if you had your own land somewhere, well, that was your land. But I'm just talking going out into unowned land. What you could do though is and cut down trees, but you could go out and look for a windfall, meaning a tree that got blown over on its own, and then you could harvest the tree because it had fallen over and no one else had come to harvest it. So there was restriction because they needed the big straight trees to, particularly to make the masts, but they also needed other shapes and trees to make other parts of the ship. So, this was some of the colonial restrictions that the Americans were chafing at because the Americans didn't care about what the Royal Navy needed. They were just out for themselves. So a windfall was a tree that comes down on its own somehow, in a storm or whatever, as opposed to being rotten or something, because a rotten tree would just not produce much of good wood. But so a good healthy tree being coming down is normally would be because of a storm or windfall, and so the wind would knock it over, and so that's where windfall comes from, and that would be oh wow, we found this really nice tree that just come down, and then you could harvest it that way. We're just giving you since we're talking trees and harvesting, where that word comes into our language. And so everything here basically is a resource. Everything. And this is the age, or the end of this age, shall we say, is when Marxism and particularly communism there's multiple Marxisms. One of his is his views of history, which isn't necessarily communism, but Marx and also Malthus. I hate Malthus as well. But Marx comes out of a period that land here is only going to produce so much. Whether it's how many sheep you can graze on it, or how much wheat you can grow into it, and the resources are limited. And so his viewpoint is that if I have, let's say she has 4 dresses, well, she's somehow denying other people dresses, because there can only be, because of the limited resources, there's only so many dresses to be had. Because let's say we were raising sheep here, and that's one of the options coming in the game. Well, there's only going to be so much wool, and so if she has 4 dresses, well, maybe everyone else should have 2, because if you're having one cleaned or whatever, you change up once in a while. But taking 4, it's denying, say, 2 other people their second dress, women presumably, but just the amount of clothing, could be a man's clothing. So Marx sees all this as a zero-sum game, that for one person to have more than somebody else is denying the other person something. But just as Marx is looking at the world in the, mid-19th century and studying the past, now he is from a starting to industrialize country. I'd have to know. I recently collected a few days ago an infographic that talks about the spread of the Industrial Revolution, and they have Britain in 1840, and then like every 10 years how much the Industrial Revolution is spreading into the other parts of Europe. So, and Marx is, a German Jew, so he's coming from Germany, and so that's more like 1860s, 1870s, really getting, not that there isn't a factory here or a factory there, but really an industrialized society being spread. So one factory is not an industrialized society make, but it's got to be enough of scale and whatnot. So, like we were mentioning food here, we in the modern world can make more shoes than we can all wear. And Imelda Marcos, Ferdinand Marcos, the dictator of the Philippines, wife, who had known for having a fabulous, huge collection of shoes, women's shoes, obviously, isn't denying somebody else shoes. Now, maybe the corrupt Marcos were stealing from the national treasury. That's a different argument. But the idea that she or some other woman in America having 200 pairs of shoes, now she had thousands of shoes, or tens of thousands, I don't know, but and a lot of high-end shoes, isn't denying somebody else a thing, because we are able to produce more shoes than the people can wear. We can produce more shoes. And again, it's only societal structures, whether you want to call it politics or not. And we can look at India and the caste system and all of that kind of stuff that keeps people in poverty because of their caste and the structures of their society. Why did he go and look at the wall there? That was weird. So that so communism is based upon, again, on that zero sum idea that Marx had, and Marx is coming out of looking at the world, because up until the 18th century, it really was sort of your wealth is based on your land. You couldn't generate wealth effectively in other means. So now we can. And so the Marxist socialist redistribution idea is just wrong. And so you talk waste of food. Yeah, yeah. It's effort going in to generate food that is not used. The other thing, the other alternative is people going hungry. Because even in a developed society, you can't always, plan how many meals and then, a day your society is going to need, and then not have a hiccup in the system. You can make a living by going from place to place and selling other people's stuff. To sell other people's stuff. Not sure exactly. Well, there's definitely merchants going around, yes, buying and selling. And that's we will get into the, and this is why I like this game here, is even though this is, this money is sort of communal, regional wealth, as opposed to this money over here would be the treasury of him. I don't know quite societally, within a manor lord, how that would work. So some of this stuff is gamey, and some of this stuff, I'm not sure. But where is it here? Which, again, why I love this as sort of a teaching, talking aid here. Here, pack stations, and some others elements is you don't get, okay, there's a bandit camp right there. When we get some people together, we should go attack that camp. But you don't get to just say, send, salt over to here to cure the, to salt the meat, the fish. You have to trade. There has to be, say, something, which could be fish, going back and forth. So in between these regions, unlike, here there is, this household, even though it's growing vegetables, doesn't make any more money than any of these other households. So this is and partially this is just because it's a game and they haven't quite worked out the way it's going, but in reality, this would be this person's property, and this person or family or whatever you want to call it would need to pay a tax, not necessarily money. It might be labor. This person here, let's just say that this is all they own. And this is a pretty big vegetable garden. And there is a manor lord that owns the overall thing. They might go, oh, okay, well, yeah, 1/3 of your produce, say, you have to give to this guy. He gets 1/3 of your output plus labor. Like when we're unassigned families, let's say he's not one of the people that has it. unassigned. You have to give a certain number of days per, month or whatever, or per year or whatever, doing other labor, around here. And that's your tax. It's not necessarily, cash like in silver or gold or whatever. And this person would go, growing all these vegetables, would trade vegetables for, oh well, some meat or some berries or some meat once we get the we're way out here. Once we get the animal, they would be a barter system, if you will. It wasn't necessarily a very cash-oriented system. Cash is great in storing and exchanging value because you want to yeah, you can put down and, oh, when we slaughter the next cow, you get a bit of it, and how much, trade back and forth and keep tallies. You can do that. But, it's still a barter. And so within this game sense, this is all sort of a community, a commune, itty, as in a commune. But between these, for these people to get salt, this group has to send them enough fish, or if we got the clay over here, if we're making tiles or something, or iron. So if we get weapons production going over here, they have to trade the weapons for the salt and back and forth. So there is definitely the idea of people taking the effort to where somebody has a surplus and taking it to somewhere that good that where there is a deficit, a need for it, and exchanging it and making a profit margin on it. That's definitely a thing, and that's a service. Um, you know. And so back to my sort of earlier point is economies in the modern world are not a zero-sum game. Yeah, there's only so much iron on the planet. I don't know if, in a practical sense, if we'll ever run out. I know things like copper mines or deposits weren't exploited in the past, partially because of technology. Modern mining techniques are more efficient, but there were richer copper veins that you could get copper out easier and cheaper. And so why go over to another location and do a copper mine that there may be many tons of copper, but as a percent, compared to unusable rock and whatnot, as a percent, it's a much smaller percent. It's intermixed. Now, because copper has gone so high, a lot of these either mines that were shut down or mines that were never made just because they found deposits and didn't look rich enough are being put into operation. So I don't know if something like copper, if we can get to where we're no longer mining it and needing to recycle it, because copper is it's on the periodic table. It's an element, so it doesn't go away, and so it doesn't get destroyed or consumed. Iron is another periodic element. Yeah, it'll rust, but you can recycle the rust. It might not be very efficient, but it can be done. So, yeah, there is limited resources in that, but we're able to increase productivity of farms. We're able to increase, make synthetic fabrics out of oil or coal or other sort of carbon-based materials. So this is why Marxism, communism is such a bad philosophy, is that it was written just at the last of this type of environment, with the understanding that economies are not a zero-sum game, and if people are doing a useful task, which can be, entertaining people on, online or whatever, um, that can be a job, even though you're not producing a thing, you're not producing food, you're not producing a product. And so long as that's all cycling around, or accounting services, or you know, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I was, we can talk. The fires a bit on my mind because the northern part of my county is burning down right now, because of mainly because of mismanagement. Yeah, the fires started, but we can talk about why those fires started. Um, but firemen, yeah, well, firemen provide a valuable source of putting out fires, in a practical sense. But accounting, well, yeah, but a service, is a thing that is useful, but a service that is not required. I guess like DoorDash or something. I think a lot of those jobs are scam jobs that they're getting these people to work for too little money. But is that yeah, you can go get your food on your own. You don't need to have somebody zip off to the um, wherever it is they're picking the food up from, McDonald's or whatever, and bringing it to you. So yeah, they're providing a service though, and you're paying for it, and the economy can live with that because it is not, in the modern sense, a zero-sum game of limited resources or limited production. We can produce more shoes than humanity can wear. And if anything, long term in the Western world, they're wondering about the possible redundancy or unnecessarily needing uh, people. Resources stolen by bandits. Okay, bandits took, yes. They snuck in and they took some berries. Hopefully, we still have 125 berries left. Good. That means we can make it through the winter without starving. And this is why they're talking about a mincome, a minimum income. Uh, the biggest problem with that is sort of the human dignity aspect of people. Uh, I think a purpose is needed in life for people. So just existing is not healthy for people. They need a purpose to do something. Could be raising a family. It doesn't have to be a job, but it needs to be some sort of something to wake you up in the morning to mean you got to go do because you're responsible to do it. Okay, we have food for 16 months, fuel for what, 15 months. So we have enough of that. Huh. We're trying to grow here and we have 8 homes, 5 families still. We've yet available living spaces, yes, for 3 more. Population of 15. Approval. Okay, we need, yes, last time we did not have, okay, well, previous months we did have homelessness because we didn't have any buildings. We've got public order. I don't know. Okay, come on in, people. We need a few more people to make this community work. I know it's winter. We can't pick any more berries. As long as we still have berries, we'll get through the winter fine from food. Let's keep you working here. Clear that next. Fairly full, I see. What next? Good. Marketplace. That's just more of a designation. We really don't have much stuff being marketed yet. Would I stop it? We need, okay, we have that. We need, okay, we could do a saw pit. So, put it out here near the logging camp, so they just have to move it that short distance. Well, we could form the militia. Right now, we started out with 20 spears and 20 shields, so that would be a militia, a spear militia unit. Otherwise, we don't have the weaponry for it, so let's create that. And so we now have this. I don't know if there's much more to do. When you click on here, you can raise the unit, and standing around sort of trains it. I think there's just a little too many bandits for me to want to go in and get them with just 10 people. I think we might have the similar sort of result. So, what am I doing now? Let's see. Arno, you're going home. You're unassigned, so you're one of these two families that don't have a specific job. Sev is transporting, and he is a firewood cutter. Beam Slam is waiting around, and he's a warehouse worker, so he's working in the storehouse waiting for something, firewood or whatever, to be cut and moved to the thing. But Arno should, as unassigned, should be getting the oxen and whatnot and coming and getting a couple of logs and moving them to there and set that up. First, when you said, wonder what I'm doing, I didn't quite get that. So, well, we'll get to 50% approval once we get far enough away from having homelessness in previous months. Ah. I don't know how society's going to react when we have unemployment, but not because of not because of a downturn in economy, but just because of, I don't know, robotation. Robots. I don't necessarily mean robots like walking around. I mean um, high levels of automation in production. I'm seeing because you know in California here they're making minimum wage so much that they're turning McDonald's into um, a thing that doesn't need people to run. They very much don't want me walking up and asking for food. They want me to go to a screen and put it into the screen, touch screen. I want this, that's, and this, and create my order that way. And which I hate doing. I want to talk to a person. I don't want to just touch screen it. I mean, to a point they even want me to put an app on my phone and do it that way and walk in there and get it. And they're now developing better and better. Less work in winter, maybe time. Well, what I'm trying to do here is maximizing the 5 families that we have. We just got this, so now I'm going to put one of the families on that, which will mean it's time. And I think, I don't know that, well, I don't know if they lose their training skills in between being raised. So I'm not sure. But there is no specific train button. I can put them out here. I guess we can do that for a little bit. So again, we got this. So let's here. And so all they basically now do is, I mean, I can tell them to form up here, but there's missile alert, for being shot at, balance, stand your ground, push forward, what's this, give ground to retreat, I can tell them to retreat, you disband, run to positions, and I can hold. There is not like a, train, I guess, maybe they'll just stand around and do this for on their own. Oh. Did raising that get the bandits to attack me? They had been just standing around. Did I trigger this? This time we're winning against these bandits. Well, not anymore. Okay, well, okay. Bandits just killed everybody. Now they're going to burn my village. Okay, load game. Let's go to an autosave here. Let's see if I can load this hopefully before we did that. Maybe that was too provocative. It was too close. Okay. Now let's just save this. Save. Let's make an official save. Let's call it okay for the moment. Save. All right. No, we're not going to. We're going to continue. We're not going to raise. We're not going to rally the troops. That may be just a little too close that they saw these form up and these guys came over and did. Because sometimes, and there may be other bandit camps that are sitting way out here. Yeah, we've got to get better. I wish I had a tiger tank. Yeah, so we're not going to play around with the militia anymore. The bandits will just steal a little bit of our food now and again. We'll live with that. Um, they want a market stall for that. But what I want is to cut some timber into. We'll be ready. I don't want to track their movements because I think tracking their movements encourages an attack. I know these guys here. I'm not ready to battle them. As we can see, 10 to 18 just doesn't survive. Later on, we can see about getting armor and other more effective equipment. Now, another thing I want to do here is, let's find the hitching post, and we can relocate it. Let's put it over here. It's sort of a halfway point between my logging stuff and moving stuff to town. So it will store the animal in a slightly better spot. That's set up. We got it in a new location. Now, when we get enough resources, we need to get 20 planks. We have the 10 stone. We can then build a wooden church. That may also increase approval. We're not yet small tavern. We need to have the tavern function. We need to have ale. We're nowhere near that. Still just down 5 from that homelessness at the start. Yeah, we didn't have any homes at the start. What do you expect? But we have homes now. People should want to move in. Free homes. All you got to do is agree to the rules of the manor. You agree to our rules, and hey, you're good. Okay, we've got that now. Well, let's see. Let's move it slightly this way, and we will, I think, reduce that down because I think we have enough firewood. We'll do that. And temporarily we'll reduce this down. So now we have 4 unassigned families. That's going to make the church. Left enough space here to be able to make a road or whatever to go straight over here at some point. I know we're still walking around this loop, but we'll see about that. Yeah, it was formed because obviously we passed the time period of that last raid or battle, so it was forming that militia unit up that invited them to show up. And so we've transported 3 sets of planks, 1 big timber, and no stone. So we need to move the resources here. Okay, it needs 2 more logs. Fully complete. Because Fritz here is our main bottleneck for construction. Resources stolen, 14 firewood. Okay. Yeah, I'd rather have that happen now. I'm not looking for a free ride on this game, but we need something better than just getting overrun by the bandits for a challenge. There we go. He is just an undertaker. Bandit campsite. Yeah, I'm not even going to go click on it. Don't care. Hopefully we'll just ignore the problem and it'll go away. Okay, the snow is clearing up. Okay, enemy unit has been spotted. Well, I'm going to save this here. I'm going to ignore that enemy unit later on. Hopefully it'll bypass us. I know it's been, well, not even a year yet, and we haven't gotten any new families in here. Well, I want to thank Beamslam, Arno, Admiral Teague, who else here? Jamnuska. I know there's a few other names here. I'm scrolling up. Dutov Devlich. Hopefully I'm getting that right. For hanging out with me today. Been fun. We, as in Sev82, if you're still around, thanks for hanging out with me. We will be back tomorrow playing some War Thunder, driving tanks, flying aircraft, probably driving some Tigers. So be back tomorrow with that. And of course, back next weekend with more Manor Lords as well on Saturday. So thanks, everyone. Hopefully you guys have a great day or evening. Soup? No, I'm not having soup.